Hi, I'm Olivia, a custody advisor at Wall Street Prison Consultants. Today we're going to discuss embezzlement. Embezzlement is a serious crime that involves the theft and/or unlawful use of money or property by a person entrusted with the care or control of that money or property. Embezzlement charges involving public funds, property, or anything else of value belonging to the United States government or any federal agency can lead to severe legal, personal, and professional consequences, possibly including a federal prison term, substantial fines, and severe restrictions on future employment prospects. Embezzlement is a type of property theft occurring when a person who is entrusted to manage or monitor someone else's money or property steals that money or property for his own personal gain. Embezzlement usually occurs in a corporate setting, and the majority of embezzlement cases involve an employee stealing funds from their employer. Similar to the crime of misappropriation, the key element that sets embezzlement apart from a simple theft crime is the fact that a person accused of embezzlement must have had legal access to the stolen money or property, but not legal ownership of it. Embezzlement can involve the theft of large amounts of money or smaller amounts over a long period of time. As a white-collar crime, a term used to describe non-violent, financially motivated crimes, the embezzlement must have involved money, property, or anything else of value belonging to the federal government or one of its agencies. Federal embezzlement charges can also be filed against any employee of a contractor or business in the private sector with a federal contract, who is accused of stealing property that was paid for by the federal government. Allegations of embezzlement can lead to federal charges, particularly if the crime involves the theft of property or funds belonging to the federal government or any agency of the United States. Title 18, Chapter 31 of the U.S. Code outlines dozens of statutes that cover the various types of federal embezzlement offenses. Some of these include the following: public money, property, or records, 18 U.S. Code Section 641. Tools and materials for counterfeiting purposes, 18 U.S. Code Section 642. Accounting generally for public money, 18 U.S. Code Section 643. Banker receiving an authorized deposit of public money, 18 U.S. Code Section 644. Court officers depositing registry monies, 18 U.S. Code Section 646. Disbursing officer falsely certifying full payment, 18 U.S. Codes Section 651. Theft, embezzlement, or misapplication by bank officer or employee, 18 U.S. Code Section 656. Lending, credit, and insurance institutions, 18 U.S. Code Section 657. Theft or embezzlement from an employee benefit plan, 18 U.S. Code Section 664. Theft or embezzlement in connection with health care, minus 18 U.S. Code Section 669. Embezzlement charges are taken extremely seriously by the federal government, and if you are convicted on charges of embezzlement in federal court, you could end up serving a decades-long prison sentence. The specific penalties associated with a federal embezzlement charge are based on the criminal statute the offense falls under, and the value of the money or property the defendant is accused of embezzling. For instance, if you are found guilty of a violation of 18 U.S. Code Section 641, embezzlement of public money, property, or records, and the value of the property does not exceed $1,000, you could be fined up to $100,000 or imprisoned for no more than 1 year, or both. However, if the value of the property does exceed $1,000, you could be fined up to $250,000 or imprisoned for up to 10 years, or both. Other factors, such as the level of trust that was placed in the defendant, the duration of the alleged embezzlement, and whether the defendant has a criminal record, can play a role in the severity of the punishment imposed upon conviction. It is important to keep in mind that not all embezzlement crimes are treated the same under federal law. Some offenses are more serious and will therefore carry a stiffer punishment upon conviction. Under 18 U.S. Code Section 656, for example, embezzlement of funds valued at more than $1,000 by a bank officer or employee is punishable by a prison sentence of not more than 30 years and/or up to $1 million in fines. If the amount embezzled is below $1,000, on the other hand, the court may impose a term of imprisonment not to exceed 1 year. The United States government has extensive resources at its disposal to investigate and try embezzlement offenses that violate federal law, and any person suspected of embezzling government funds or property will be subject to aggressive federal prosecution. However, just like in any other criminal case, each element of the embezzlement crime must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt in order for the prosecution to get a conviction. The specific elements the prosecution must prove in your embezzlement case will depend on the charge, but the general elements that are common to embezzlement charges are as follows. There was a relationship of trust or fiduciary responsibility between the two parties. The defendant acquired the property through the relationship. The defendant took ownership of the property or transferred the property to someone else, and the defendant's actions were intentional.